Yo, what is going on everybody? Shri Kanase here. So the top 5 alternatives to Shopify. Now in 2020, this is one of the biggest things I personally believe dropshippers should be playing around with, and that is simply using a different platform to host the website. A lot of people fail to realize that Shopify is not the only platform out there which lets you create a website specifically for e-commerce purposes. This list of 5 specific alternatives to Shopify, which I'm about to go over, are not only perform the same functions as Shopify, but in some cases, a lot of these are much faster and much cheaper than Shopify itself. So if you're really trying to find a way to lower your cost when it comes to running an online business and continue dropshipping with much greater profits, this is one video you're going to want to watch until the end, because not only will I reveal these 5 alternatives, but I'll also be going over some pros and cons related to each. But without wasting any more time, let's just jump right into it. So the first thing you'll have to do before you find any type of success with any of these platforms is to just destroy that like button down below. It'll take just 2 quick seconds. Okay, hopefully you have done that. But the first platform on my list, and this is one of my personal favorites, is WooCommerce. Now there are several different reasons why I personally recommend WooCommerce. Let's go ahead and go over some of the benefits of WooCommerce before going into the downfalls and cons of WooCommerce. So here are 3 main benefits. The first one is that it is very cost efficient to start with WooCommerce. In fact, I started one of my general stores with WooCommerce a year ago with about only $50 in applications and everything as a whole. If you compare that to Shopify, I would have already been down about $100, even up to $200, depending on what kind of apps I added. And the biggest benefit to WooCommerce compared to Shopify is that even these apps have very low monthly costs. A lot of the main ones are less than $10 per month, which is why WooCommerce is such a great option, especially for those people who are on a strict budget. In addition to having low costs for both starting and running a store, with WooCommerce, everything is very customizable. Basically, you can do whatever you want and whatever is possible on your website with WooCommerce. Of course, this kind of leads to another con, which I'll be going over very soon, but the third and most important thing is that WooCommerce is very secure. Even though you have so much control over your website, you can do literally whatever you want. WooCommerce still has some plugins which make sure that nobody can harm you in any way, and all of the data that your customers give to you is fully safe and secure. But of course, not everything is good with WooCommerce. There are 2 main cons when it comes to WooCommerce. The first one is it is extremely hard to customize the themes with WooCommerce, simply because you have so much control. In fact, I would say that if you want to even use WooCommerce, you should know a little bit of coding, because you will need to be entering some kinds of small pieces of code here and there to kind of add certain things. And if you use one of those specific themes where the support team is literally non-existent, then you will have to figure out how to do all these customizations by yourself, because this is not like Shopify where you can simply open up Shopify chat and start asking questions. But in addition, the applications, also known as plugins with WooCommerce, could be limited when it comes to compatibility, especially if you use any types of third-party themes for your website. So you'll have to be really careful when it comes to WooCommerce to make sure that you choose the right theme where the support team is active, and the plugins that you use for WooCommerce do work with this theme. But otherwise, this is my #1 recommendation and something I would personally use over and over again besides Shopify. But this brings me to my next alternative on the list, and this is Clickfunnels. Now, this is not exactly like any of the other platforms here, because with the Clickfunnels, you have the option of simply creating a single product landing page. But one thing you want to know is that single product landing pages work the absolute best when it comes to e-commerce. In fact, when I used to use Clickfunnels about a year or 2 ago, my average conversion rates was around 5% with my Clickfunnels landing page. This is simply because, again, Clickfunnels is very customizable, and it is an all-in-one platform where you can track all of the data coming in. You can add certain customizations to the product page itself, and you can basically do whatever you want, and the same things as you can do with Shopify, which is why Clickfunnels is another great alternative. But in addition, Clickfunnels offers easy data tracking. You can easily connect it to Facebook ads or Google ads or any other platform you wish to use. But of course, again, like the first one, this also has some cons. One of the biggest cons with Clickfunnels that I personally faced is the slowness of the ClickFunnels product pages. No matter how many edits I did on the product page to make it faster, I always noticed that it was just a little bit slower than the Shopify product pages or the WooCommerce product pages. So this kind of led me away from Clickfunnels, but that does not make it a bad platform to be using. If you do hire somebody from Fiverr or Upwork to make customizations for you, there's a very good chance that the Clickfunnels landing page could become extremely fast. But the second issue with Clickfunnels is that there are no external features with the platforms, meaning you can't really add a blog page or you can't really add any external pages where a customer can go to. So you're basically stuck with a single product page, and that product page itself defines your entire store and your entire brand. So if you wish to sell multiple different products, or if you want to start a general store, using Clickfunnels may not be the best way to go for you, simply because you'll be having multiple different landing pages and it could become extremely difficult to manage all of these. But nonetheless, an amazing platform to be trying in 2020 and onwards, especially if you just run a single product store or run niche stores. But this brings me to my third alternative, which is BigCommerce. Now, BigCommerce is very interesting because this is one of the newer platforms which I've kind of just been messing around with. There are several different benefits to using BigCommerce compared to Shopify. Number one is that there is a lot of SEO assistance available. You can easily do SEO for your products, and when it comes to Google Ads specifically, this is a really big help. Again, with the BigCommerce, you can easily customize the product pages as well and the overall themes, which you do use. But the biggest next benefit is there is no transaction fees with using BigCommerce. You get literally whatever the customer pays you, unless you use a third-party payment gateway such as Stripe. But this second option really makes BigCommerce one of the better options to go to compared to the other ones, and also Shopify. But of course, even with BigCommerce, there are some cons and some things which would kind of drive me away from it. The first one is there's different pricing tiers based on the sales amount. So the moment that you hit the end of one specific tier, you'll be charged extra for using BigCommerce, and this could heavily add on if you start doing more and more in sales. Of course, if you're doing a lot in sales, this shouldn't really be an issue, but nonetheless, this is kind of annoying when it comes to dealing with a platform where you're hosting your entire website. But in addition to that, it is really difficult for those who are not really tech savvy. There are certain customizations which require that you know how to use the computer and you know how to play around with certain types of code. So if you really find yourself not that tech savvy, I would again recommend staying away from BigCommerce, maybe going on to Clickfunnels, or maybe even just sticking to Shopify, because the first one, WooCommerce, also requires that you're just a little bit tech savvy. But nonetheless, an amazing option to be trying in 2020 and onwards. Let's move on to our third one, and that is 3D carts. Now there's multiple different benefits to 3D carts, one of them being that you can get free email marketing when you subscribe to one of the higher cost plans. Now, if you kind of compare this to using Klaviyo or any other email marketing software you use with Shopify, it is much cheaper in the long run, because with Klaviyo, as you get a higher number of individuals on your email list, the cost adds up significantly over time. In fact, one of the higher options at Klaviyo is up to $1,000 per month. Whereas with 3D carts, sure, cost of the higher plans may be a bit high, but if you compare it to just using Klaviyo itself, it is much cheaper. So if you really rely heavily on email marketing for your store, I think 3D cart would be the perfect option for you. But in addition to that, 3D cart itself has more customizable marketing features. You can list all kinds of sales, discounts, all kinds of these things on your product page directly, which is not really available on these other alternatives which I've already mentioned. And in general, 3D cart is much cheaper than Shopify. So if you're one of those people looking to just save some extra money at the end of the month while getting the same things done as you would with Shopify, 3D cart is the perfect alternative for you. But of course, there's some cons related to 3D cart, one of them being there's slower third-party app support when it comes to 3D carts. Not all of the support teams for the applications are very helpful, so you could find yourself dealing with a lot of the problems by yourself instead of having any type of support, and this could cost you to lose a lot of time. But the most important con, which I personally believe would drive me away from 3D cart, is that there are just a lower number of themes to play with. That means you're stuck with just the specific themes which 3D cart offers, nothing else, and if you don't really like any of them, you don't have any other options. But besides these two cons, 3D cart is an amazing platform to be using in 2020 and onwards, especially if you want that free email marketing or if you want those customizable marketing features at a much cheaper cost to Shopify. But let's move on to our final alternative on the list, and this is using Wix Online Site Builder. Now this one is a little bit interesting because this is not directly a platform which offers e-commerce support, but you can still create an e-commerce website using Wix. There are several reasons why I recommend Wix in the first place. I've personally seen that Wix websites have a much faster website speed compared to any of the other platforms combined, and this is without doing any customizations in the first place. So that is a really great benefit that comes with using Wix. In addition, Wix offers drag and drop customizations, so not too difficult to be using and not too difficult to be playing around with, especially if you're really not that tech savvy. But there's easy access to support. Wix support team is very helpful. They can literally guide you step by step with whatever problems you're facing. However, there are a few cons with Wix as well. First one is there's lack of templates available, mainly because it is somewhat of a newer platform compared to these other ones. So you're again limited to whatever templates they have. In addition, it is difficult to do any type of SEO customizations with Wix websites because it doesn't offer any extra features related to SEO. And as a whole, when it comes to e-commerce, there's just a lower number of customizations available for the product pages and for the websites itself. So if you want any type of extra customizations, you may need to hire somebody, or you may need to directly contact the Wix support team so that they can help you with the customizations. But this was my list of top 5 alternatives to Shopify that you can definitely be looking into in 2020 and onwards. If you found any type of value in this video, destroy that like button and destroy that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time.